I'm on a bit of a hobby horse these days, spending a lot of time with management teams and telling them all the things they're doing wrong. I think it's fun, and I hope you'll get inspired to join me on this journey. So, since this is the closing presentation of the conference, it's traditional in conferences to finish with something inspiring, something with vision, something that's going to take you away, all these great thoughts that you've had, and give you that push to take it home with you. So, in that vein, I hope I don't disappoint. The agenda today is I want to tell you that modern Agile is rubbish, that we're all doomed, and you should save yourself, because no one else is going to save you. Hopefully this is sufficiently inspirational. So let's start from the beginning. Modern Agile is rubbish. I'm pretty sure I don't need to convince you about this, but anyway, I'm going to go through it. We all know that we started with the Agile Manifesto, a bunch of white guys in a ski cabin, couldn't get more diverse deciding how we should make software, and they did a fantastic job. In general, it was quite inspirational, and it was quite open as well, so they left a lot for us to figure out. And that's what we spent the rest of the decade trying to figure out. It was like, well, how are we going to make this stuff work? But we had a vision. We had this utopian vision of this agile world that we could all live in. We'd all sing around hand in hand, talking about the wonderful world we wanted to live in. We'd have developers, we'd have operations, we'd have business, QA, everyone holding hands. It's going to be fantastic. Now, we started along this journey. We learned a bit about Scrum. We figured, maybe we can do some Kanban. Let's just put something on the wall. We can start to discuss it and plan and work together and collaborate. We don't all have to sit in our offices by ourselves. But after a while, we thought, you know what? This isn't really enough. We're in technology. We can do better than this. I mean, we can do better than this, right? Maybe if we built a tool to do this, we'd do better. If we could have some way that we wouldn't actually have to go to the board to look at the current status, we could even check it while we're at home. And, if we could have distributed teams, we wouldn't all have to actually be in the same room together. And maybe we wouldn't have to talk so much either. It'd be great. And we'd get all these graphs for free. We don't even have to get a pen out and draw the little dots anymore. This is progress. And then we went along this path for a while, and that seemed to be working. So we kind of dug in and said, we can do even better. And stop me if you've heard this one before. We thought, we're figuring it out, but we need some more structure about how we're deciding what to do. It's not just enough to be going through this 2-week sprints and this treadmill. We need some kind of program management. That's what's missing from Agile, is program management. Now, I hope you all agree this was a fantastic improvement on the way we did software. Finally, we had some method, some recipe to follow in order to figure out how we should manage our programs. But we weren't done there, were we? Oh no, because then we've got the portfolio. And, if you're operating at that level, then, we need a system for managing our portfolio too. Then we can really start to have some really good, strong guiding vision on the work we do. We can be really aligned with our customers. It's going to be fantastic. This is the world. This is improvement. We weren't done there either, were we? Because maybe we've got a large solution instead. Maybe it's not a portfolio. Maybe we're just building something really, really big. Could even be a monolith. But, we've got a solution for this. We can even figure out the economic framework for our non-functional requirements, and we can have a solution train. It doesn't get better than this. But what if you need to make a portfolio of large programs? I know. Look at this. One more step. Let's have a portfolio, large solution program, team, solution, overarching method for doing everything in the world ever. Isn't this great? We finally figured out how to do Agile. And we were fully safe while we did it. This is actually called full safe. My goodness. I don't know how we got here. That escalated quickly, didn't it? Oh my goodness. This is a long way from, people and processes. Whew. Okay, take a breath. Some of us didn't follow this path, though. We didn't need full safe. But maybe we can learn from Spotify, because Henrik Niebuhr made a really nice PDF that we all learn from. It's great. Spotify is doing extremely well. The thing is, not everybody's Spotify. And in fact, Henrik Niebuhr explicitly tells you in that very PDF, don't copy what we did. We would never copy the Scrum. We would never copy tribes and squads and guilds. No. We would never mix safe with the Spotify model either, would we? No, we would never do that. Of course we did, because we're idiots. It's so frustrating to work in software sometimes, because we see stuff and we copy it. That's all we do. We're like cargo culting everywhere. Anyway, this is rubbish. I hope we all agree this is rubbish. Modern life is rubbish. Blur is rubbish. And modern Agile is rubbish. It's all rubbish. Okay, now I've got that out. We can move on to the next inspirational part of my talk, which is we are all doomed. Good. Now remember this, the manifesto for Agile software development. Responding to change over following a plan. I'm really glad we figured that out. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's like déjà vu all over again. Huh. Okay. But we've been here. We've been here before. This is not the first thing we've tried to copy in software, especially when it comes to process. Some of you are maybe even old enough to remember the methodology wars. We've been here many, many times before. Does anyone know when this was made, this article, Managing the Development of Large Systems? 1970. In this paper, Winston Royce talks about waterfall. This is like the famous diagram that everyone says we shouldn't do this. And in the paper, he says the implementation described above is risky and invites failure. So we would never copy this. Even in the paper that describes it as saying it's awful. Oh, but yes, we can. Let's build standards around it. Let's make sure that anyone that is a defense contractor must follow this process. Some of you might be old enough for this one too. This is how I learned to make software in school. When I was at university, they taught us structured systems analysis and design methodology. SSADM for short. It's much catchier that way. And we just keep doing it. What is wrong with our industry? Oh my God. This is why we can't have nice things. Good. Now, this is the audience participation part of the program. I would like to ask you all to take out a phone or any other kind of instrument that has a web browser, except Internet Explorer, because that doesn't work. Then, I would like you to go to hold on a second. Let's go to www.menti.com and put in this code, 825909. Now, I know we don't, well, before I get ahead of myself. Oh, look, I got a little heart. You're welcome. I invite you to. Oh, that's beautiful. It makes it all worthwhile, I have to admit. Oh, I'm going to have some tears in a moment. Okay, I would like you to think about your IT organization in terms of its performance in two dimensions. One is, how aligned your IT organization is with the business that it operates in? How much do the CEO, how much do you think he really thinks that the IT organization is delivering on the business goals that he has? And then along the other axis, you have the technical effectiveness. How effective do you think your IT organization is in delivering technical solutions? Now, I've said here there's two answers, one for 5 years ago and one is for today, but you can take more than 5 years ago if you like. But we have some time. Go ahead and see where you think you fall on that. There's no wrong answers here, by the way, and there's no judgment either. I'm just kind of curious. Interesting. Whew. Interesting. Good. Okay, but that's fun. You're kind of in the middle. Right, there was a reason for all of this. Let me explain. Now, there was some research done in 2007 by Bain and Company, the management consulting firm, together. It was published in MIT Sloan Review. And they called up the CEOs and the executives in more than 500 different companies and asked them this same question. And it was really interesting what they found. Oh yeah, alignment. What they found was that obviously, companies fall in all different areas in the spectrum, and obviously, and parts of companies fall in different areas in this spectrum. But in general, they fall somewhere on this picture, and they clustered them into 4 distinct groups. But what they were most interested in their finding was about alignment, which is really what this whole safe Scrum diaspora of methodologies that we have. They're trying to figure out how do we get people working on the stuff that's important, about alignment. So this was published in 2007. It's a great report. It's very short. I think you have to pay $7 or something to get it, but it's worth it. What it does is it asks these questions to the executives, and also followed on with a bunch of interviews to find out more behind the reasons for their answers. And they publish it in this report. Now, the reason why they called it the alignment trap is that there is a trap in aligning your IT organization to the business. What they found is that in the path to IT-enabled growth, the first thing you do is really important. Let me explain. So, okay, there's 4 kind of main categories in this chart that the companies fell into. And where most companies fell into in 2007 was what they called the maintenance zone, where most of the IT spending was considered to be not very aligned to the business, and it wasn't very effective in terms of technical delivery. It was basically IT to keep the lights on. It was keeping the lights on stuff. But that's where most people were in that stage, across the S&P 500. Now, there was a smaller group that were what they called the well-oiled IT category, where the IT was not very aligned with business goals, but still it was delivering quite well. And on average, it was a lot cheaper, the IT spend, than actually any of the other groups. And it was more effective than most of the other groups as well. So being good at IT for IT's sake was in itself quite a good destination, even if you're not very aligned, at least from the findings of this survey. Then, of course, the top right-hand place is where everybody wants to be. They called this the IT-enabled growth category, where the organizations were spending just a little bit, 4% less than other companies on IT, but their sales, the compound sales over 3 years, were up 35%. So they were doing extremely well financially as a company. The reason why I find this interesting is that it also echoes the results from the Accelerate State of DevOps reports and all the work Dora has been doing over the last 6 years, trying to tie business performance, financial outcomes, to IT technology performance. So it is, again, showing that IT performance is a driver for business performance, which is great, because that means that we all have something useful to contribute to society. I hope. Now, The final area where the paper gets its title from is called the alignment trap, where the IT organization is really well aligned with the business. Basically, the business feels like they've got control on what the IT department's working on. They've got good input into the priorities and so on. But they're not very good at delivering on what they want. The reason why it's a trap, okay, one more thing, is that they spend on average 13% more on IT than other companies. So it's more expensive to be there, and the financial returns are not very good on those companies. So what they're saying is basically by reorganizing your company to be more aligned to the business, adopting SAFe, adopting the Spotify model, it's probably not the first important step, because you're going to get aligned to the business without being able to deliver anything very well. So it's going to be more expensive, and you're going to get less done. Now, what they found is companies that get out of the alignment trap, or should I say it another way, the way to get to enabled growth was not to go up and to the right. It was to go down to the right and then up again, like this. Because there is no way from the top left to the top right. Because while the business has complete control over the IT organization, it's really hard for them to do the investments that are required to get anywhere in the future. I've seen this with lots of companies as well, where they're really well aligned. They've got product owners, they've got scrum of scrums, they're really prioritizing on the work to be done. But on the other hand, they can't get to the cloud. They can't kill the mainframe. They can't get off this legacy database, because that would mean down prioritizing business objectives. And the business controls what gets done. So the really important investments that need to be made, the technology, that are not critical business outcomes, don't get prioritized. I'm sure we've all seen this in different organizations. And that's why it's called the alignment trap. Getting aligned is a dangerous place to start. And the way they sum it up is, well, at least Richard Connell in the survey, in the paper, he says, the summary is, aligning a poorly performing IT organization to the right business objectives won't get the objectives accomplished. It's obvious, right? It doesn't matter how much you align with the business. If you're crap at IT, you're crap at IT. It's just like a boat. I see it like a boat. I think about this whole quadrant model as a boat, and you've got the engine and you've got the rudder. Now, if you have all rudder and no engine, you're going nowhere. You can steer as much as you like, but you're going nowhere. You need the engine. You need to be good at tech before you're going to get anywhere. Then the rudder starts to make sense. And I think that I've actually used this same phrase in the past to talk about people who were extremely enthusiastic but didn't have a clear direction, all engine, no rudder. But actually, for an IT organization, that can be a good place to start. Actually getting good is a worthwhile outcome. So yes, aligning a poorly performing IT organization is not going to help. SAFe is not going to help your IT performance issues. We are all doomed. Are we sufficiently enthusiastic now? Great. Then we can move on to the final point on the agenda. Save yourself. But because this is DevOps Day, we have to save ourselves with DevOps. Okay. Have I shown this slide enough yet? I want this to be kind of tattooed on the back of your eyeballs by the end of this talk. It's horrific. It's just a monstrous thing. To think that you can apply a model as complicated as this to anything as complex as a company is just insanity. Right, so say we're going to take SAFe and we're going to get DevOps. We're going to save ourselves with DevOps. Thankfully, there is a certification that we can take to get us there. Many of us took the DevOps certification yesterday. I hope we all passed. It was fun. It was great. It's a lot easier to take on Kahoot than this, I presume. But yeah, we have SAFe for DevOps Practitioner Certification. based on version 4.5 of SAFe. Oh, I think I threw up a bit there, sorry. So we can go down this path, and we can even learn from the training that, we need application lifecycle management because we're, living in 1999. We need to build and test and do continuous integration, artifact management, and continuous deployment. Great. We might not know how to start. We might want to have an assessment about where we are. We can thankfully use the DevOps health radar and figure out, whether we're exploring enough or whether we're integrating enough. Business value, alignment, quality, time to market. That's just great. We should put this on a dartboard at next Devopsdays. Yeah. Anyway, we're doomed. It's like déjà vu all over again. Let's just copy this. Because, it's just impossible to think for ourselves. It can't be the solution to get good at something is to get good at something. No, it must be that we need to follow someone else's recipe. But we're going to follow someone else's recipe. Let's have an org from Google or Microsoft or Facebook and then wonder why it doesn't work. Because of course it doesn't work. Copying stuff never works. We need to think. So we have to stop copying things. It's not good for anyone. It's not good for my heart. Okay, the next step. Time for the touchy-feely stuff. I want to assess your culture. In a non-creepy way, of course. So if you could go to menti.com and use this code, it would be great. You're welcome, of course, to give me some hearts, because that was nice. I really appreciated those hearts. Oh, that's nice. Thanks, guys. Makes it all worthwhile. Okay, so this is some questions that can help assess a company culture across the Western culture model, which I'll explain in a minute. I would like you to answer these 7 questions based on how strongly you disagree or agree with these in regards to the company culture that you're currently in. Wow! Now, of course, this is completely unscientific data because you're all from different companies. If you really want to have some fun, put this into a Google form and take it to a company because they will freak out. Doing this in front of a management team makes everybody very, very nervous. It's unsurprising to see, for me at least, that a lot of attendees to Devopsdays are coming from relatively generative cultures. Isn't that interesting? Information is actively sought. Messengers are not punished when they deliver bad news. Responsibilities are shared. Cross-functional collaboration is encouraged and rewarded. Failure causes inquiries. New ideas are welcomed. And failures are treated as opportunities to improve the system. Now, out of respect for, these are average values you're seeing here, but you can see the distribution. So there's quite a distribution in people's experiences, lived experiences in their companies. And, not everyone's having a great time over here. Everyone over here is having a great time, but not everyone's over there. Many people are over on this side of the spectrum, and I feel bad for you. That's why I'm saying you have to save yourself. So, this is the Western culture model, and I'm stealing this from Accelerate, the great book by Nicole Forsgren, based on her research with DevOps over the years. And what they've started to do, and it's from the 2007 or 2018 report, is to ask questions about how culture influences companies. So what they're using is the Western culture model. Now, In your own time, you can go back and think about the numbers you answered. And if you answered between 1 and 13, you would fall into working for a company that was considered pathological or power-oriented culture, where there's low cooperation, messengers are short, responsibilities are shirked, and so on. If you were in the middle third, you would be considered to be working in what's called a bureaucratic or rule-oriented system. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and bureaucracies can be quite useful because bureaucracies are quite fair places usually. There's fair application of rules and so on, but they're maybe not the best place to be innovative, in a sense. And then there's generative organizations that are performance-oriented, where it's high cooperation, a lot of novelty, risks are shared, messengers are trained. It's basically the Agile utopia. This is the kind of world that Agile was intending to create. And what they found through the research in DevOps is that actually, if you have a generative culture, or actually, in a more generic way, your organizational culture will be predictive of organizational performance, which is maybe not surprising. But it is surprising when you think about that distribution of cultures that you all answered. Some of you are not in a company that is a generative culture. You might want to have a think about that, because this is why I'm actually saying you have to save yourself. One other point I wanted to say here is that continuous delivery, so each of these arrows identifies a predictive relationship, not a correlation or anything, actual predictive relationship. So what this is showing is that the culture is predictive of organizational performance, and software delivery performance and identity also factor in. But interestingly, continuous delivery is predictive of culture. So if you wanted to move your culture from, say, being bureaucratic to being generative, one step along the way might be to invest in continuous delivery and those kind of systems, because what they say is investments in technology are also investments in people. Once you start to automate, once you start to adopt all these culture things that we've been talking about in Devopsdays for the last 2 days, then you start to impact everybody's daily lives. People start to enjoy work more. They collaborate more. It's more fun. Now, I realize I'm running low on time, but I just want to point out that none of this is new. This is, does anyone know who this is? Alistair Cockburn? Yeah. He has a website that doesn't work right now, which was kind of annoying, because he had an article that I really wanted to share with you, because I think it's one of the most important, or at least the most overlooked aspects of the Agile literature that we have. But don't worry, we have the Wayback Machine, and I can find it. He has this great paper from 1999, 2 years before the Agile Manifesto was even inked. It says, characterizing people as non-linear first-order components in software development. He's not great at marketing. But he does have some very, very good points. So he's talking about, he's in the title, he's referring to people as components, and that's how people are treated. And that's a mistake, and that people are highly variable and non-linear. So we need to stop pretending like they're plug-replaceable components in a system like SAFe. It's hard to feel very engaged in a system like SAFe when you see that diagram, right? And it makes me not feel good. Oh, there we are. Yeah. So what he found was interesting is that he'd been spending the best part of 20 years he was really interested in methodology as a consultant. But what he saw was that two problems. First problem is that people were not interested in learning whatever methodology he happened to espouse, and that they were able to ignore us anyway, even when we tried to, and they still managed to deliver software anyway. That's incredible. What? And he's sitting there trying to think up the best ultimate way to get people organized around making software. He said, they just ignored us and they delivered software anyway. Huh? So it goes even further. He says, almost any methodology can be made to work on some project. So people succeed with waterfall, and some people fail with waterfall. Some people fail with Agile. and succeed with waterfall, everything's possible. The most important people, the first order component, as he says, is people, not the method. And we keep pretending it's not. My goodness. In front of us all the time, which we are not seeing, is people. They're the most important thing, not safe, not agile, not any other process. The Spotify model will not save your people problem. We're not the only people that understand this. I mean, we've all seen this book before. We've probably all seen Dan Pink's TED Talk about motivation, what motivates us. We all know that these three are the three main components: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. These are the most important things that get us motivated. And we know that motivation will get us to do better work. We keep pretending it's not true. Why do we have to have these fights over and over again in our industry? Where's the autonomy? Where's the mastery? Where's the purpose in any of this? It's nonsense. We need to get out of this whole way of thinking and focus again on the people. So that's it. I want to say just one thing. This is from the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report this year. And it says by 2022, like over the next 4 years, everyone in the economy will need at least 101 days of learning. This is just for anyone, not for technologists where our world is getting kicked over every 18 months. Most technology organizations are incredibly underinvested in the way they work with people. They don't spend any effort training. They don't, like, one conference a year. One training course a year. Fagkveld. Weekend code retreats. Don't get me started on Fagkveld. That really annoys me. Try hiring women in a place where you're supposed to learn in evenings and weekends. Ridiculous. Stop it. Okay, so culture matters. People matter. That's all that matters in making an organization succeed. Because if you focus on the people, they will get the technical excellence that you need to drive culture. And then you can start to get aligned with the business. But starting with alignment is a trap. It's always been a trap. It will continue to be a trap. Stop getting trapped. We were supposed to be smiley faces. We're just tortured souls begging for death. Are we motivated yet? Save yourself with DevOps. Thank you.